What's up, family? Welcome back for another amazing episode of the Mixtape Queens podcast, where we interview amazing creatives worldwide. Before we begin, we got to start it off right. Make sure, if you haven't already, to go ahead and drop a like, a follow, and a subscribe. We really appreciate it. It'll only take you a moment. Tap in with us. Also, if this podcast has brought you any joy, any amazing people or artists that you've been able to connect with because of the Mixtape Queens podcast, tap in and let us know down in the comments below. And hit the link to our Instagram and our website. Connect with us. Hit us up. We love that.
Yes.
Okay. So I've been kind of really excited for this episode because our guest today is literally our special guest. Y'all don't even understand. It's Mike Bauman. I'm talking about the host and the founder of the March 4th podcast. It is incredible. We had the honor and the chance to be on there. It was amazing. We had a really good conversation, and our connection with him has flourished. He's our brother for life. So, of course, we brought him to the Mixtape Queens podcast. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the intro, man. That was really lovely of y'all. And yeah, I'm glad the universe had our paths cross, man. I think it might have been through Anthony Church, actually, who's a really great guy. So I'm happy to be here, man. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Anthony.
Yes.
He really is an amazing person. Also, if you guys don't know who Anthony is, just go to our Instagram, click in who we're following. You'll see him up there.
The Proven Knowledge podcast.
Yeah. Just click the link.
Yeah.
And go find out. He's awesome.
Yes.
But yes, he connected us, and I'm like really grateful for it because out of all the people that we really connected with, I want to just really take a moment to give Anthony a shout out. He's continuously sending artists that he's talked to or that he knows is like looking for an opportunity to grow and expand and like sending them our way. And we've like been able to make connections. And I think that's super cool, especially because this is what we do. We network to make a community of creatives that can flourish together. It's pretty cool.
Yes. Speaking of podcasts, we kind of got that in common. Only you've been doing this for quite a while longer than us. You said around 5 years you've been doing the March 4th podcast, and we only started our podcast a year ago, and it's been a crazy ride. We have a lot of experiences and really cool conversations that I think you can kind of relate to because you do interview music artists, and we're curious to find out how this all got started. What made you want to start a podcast and why?
That's a great question. Like the Reader's Digest version, because I can rant with the best of them, but it's so I went to school for communication with a focus in journalism, and stayed in my hometown, went to the University of Toledo. I just felt really at home there, and I love family, and I love their campus. Like if you Google it after this, it's a beautiful campus. It's like, it might sound cheesy, but it is. It's just cool. It's like should be in the dictionary for like what a college campus looks like. But it was I met with the like the chair of the Department of Communication when I was a senior in high school with my mom, and he literally laid out everything that I had to do as far as my coursework and stuff. Because in high school I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and what I wanted to go into. But as a kid, my first love was drawing. I loved drawing when I was really young. And then I've always loved just creativity in general. That's part of the reason why basketball is one of my favorites, or is my favorite sport, and always loved music. So, but I knew when I was a freshman, I was like, I'm not going to be the next Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be in the NBA. That's not happening. And then, like I said, always loved, drawing when I was a kid, basketball, played sports growing up, loved music. But I liked creative writing when I was younger too. So I was like, how can I, and that was one of the subjects in school I enjoyed the most was English. I just liked stories and I liked creative writing. And so then I was like, man, I wonder what I could do. How could I do this? And then finally I remember talking with my mom and she was like, well, you like writing and you like sports. What about like sports writing? So I did that my senior year at our student newspaper in high school, the Centric, because we're Central Catholic High School. And I had like a column, but then I was doing stories on like the sports teams in high school. I had no idea what I was doing. It was definitely not journalistic like AP style, but it was a good foundation. Shout out to Mrs. Zemansky. She was really cool, man. And so, yeah, so then I decided I was going to major in communication and I really wanted to be a sports writer initially. So I did that in college for our student newspaper, which was the Independent Collegian, and was assistant sports editor my senior year. But then when I got out of college, I had an opportunity that came up to start doing sports broadcasting locally, like covering high school games. So I would do sideline reporting initially and color commentary. And that really helped me come out of my shell. I think a lot of people who know me now would probably say I'm like an extrovert, but I'm really like an introverted extrovert. I like smaller groups of people. I like more intimate conversations like this. I don't like a lot of people, you know? So that was really hard at first to have like a camera on and a mic in front of you. And it's like the camera goes and you're like, what if I mess up? And I did. But it helped me get out of my shell a little bit. So the long story short is I started writing for, at the time it was Toledo Free Press. So I was writing for Toledo Free Press when I got out of college. Was a young pup, really green, 22 years old. And then I was also working for Toledo Sports Network doing the local broadcasting thing that I just mentioned. And the guy that got me my start in broadcasting, one of the guys, Mike Jamison, the other one was Mick Gonzalez, still talk to him this day. Mike had a home studio. So I was doing sports writing. I was working with those guys. And then I started doing music feature stories like 6 months after I met them at the beginning of 2011. And I'd get to talk to people sometimes for like an hour. And, you know, there's only so much I could fit in like 700 word stories. And I'm like, man, it'd be cool if I could give people the full conversation as long as their publicist was cool with it. And, you know, because I got to talk to some really interesting people and I listened to podcasts already. I was already listening to podcasts. So I started recording with Mike at his home studio and the rest is kind of history. I know this stuff was going to be a short story and I feel like I've been talking for like 17 minutes already. But yeah, so initially the pod was called Bauman's Breakdown. I started it in 2012. That was the name of the column that I had in high school. I had no idea what I was doing, like with graphic design or anything. Like the picture that I had, you guys will laugh because you do awesome graphic design work, but it was just a picture I took of the ocean when I was on spring break in college. And it was just, I just thought it was cool. And I put like Bauman's Breakdown on the horizon line. It looked cool, but like nobody would, you wouldn't look at it and go, what is, like, this is a music podcast? What is this? You would have no idea what it's for, you know, branding, right? I had no idea what it was doing. And like a lot of us, I think in our 20s, man, like you're trying to figure yourself out what direction you want to go. And so I would like pick it up and put it down, worked in marketing for a little bit. And then when I had the opportunity to move to Nashville in 2015 for a healthcare opportunity, I fell in love with the city. I just felt like home. Like the first visit here, I felt like it was home. And I always had designs in the back of my mind of getting back into it. And then finally, I rebranded it in 2019 because I was like, man, now that I'm coming back into it, there's so many podcasts now, and I'm just like a regular dude out here. I mean, even though I went to school for this stuff, like I'm not a famous comedian or an actor or a famous musician, you know what I mean? So I was like, how can I set myself apart and stand out? And I had a conversation with my big brother, Brandon. He's like, yo, dude, I think you need to change the name, man. Like Bauman's Breakdown. He's like, I think you need, I'm like, yeah, I know. I need to change the name. I need to update that logo too, because it doesn't really have nothing to do with anything. I love the water, but it doesn't, you know, it's not an ocean podcast. And the reason I named it March 4th was just because my birthday's March 4th. And I just decided to take the U out of it and make it a personal mantra of perseverance and moving forward. So that's like the common thread of the podcast, of the conversation. So I love music. So I have a lot of music guests on there, but I've had, you know, business owners, colleagues, and friends of mine Like the episode I just had was my good buddy Chad, who's been sober for 3 years. So we talk about his story and how music has actually played a role in his recovery. So yeah, it's been cool. When the pandemic happened, I started in 2019 and I kind of was, old habits die hard. I did a few episodes and kind of put it down. I was like, what am I doing? Is this really? And then when the pandemic happened and I was working from home, going crazy, bouncing off of four walls, man, I was like, well, you got no excuse now, Mikey. So yeah, it's been consistent for like the last 4 years for March 4th, but I rebranded it in 19. And shout out Doc Coyle from the X-Man podcast too. I remember listening to a show he did talking about how he came up with the theme of his show, and that inspired me to kind of figure out like, okay, what can my niche be? Because there's a lot of music shows, there's a lot of comedy shows, but like, what can my lane be? And so, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've just been trying to own my craft and find my voice, man, and and meeting good people like y'all out there, man. So it's been fun.
I mean, honestly, I just love everything that you just said because for me, I feel that way about like Mixtape Queens, the way you feel about March 4th. It's the messaging behind it. It's not necessarily all about music. It's really just more so about getting to know people. With the way the internet is and how social media works, it's really hard to find those connections with people outside of the internet and social media. Like people don't even want to talk to you face to face a lot of the time anymore. We've had people tell us they're afraid to talk to us on the phone. They're afraid of the phone conversation.
A lot of people are
because
nowadays.
of the anxiety, because we're all so detached from each other. So when you get to do something like host a podcast where you get to speak to these people and get to know them and know their story, and not only know their story but like spread what they're about, especially when it's like positive and influential and inspiring, when you get to showcase that not just for the people listening but the person that you're talking to, you create these very deep connections of understanding. And, as a creator, that's all you look for in your artistry is like understanding. Your artistry is your past, your present, your future. It's all of your energy combined in your art. So to have people let you come on and be like yourself and us is like, wow, this person heard my story. They liked me. This is a different exchange of energy for me. So I just love that. I like how you broke it down, like what you said.
I like doing podcasts because for me, I don't have the background of, like you said, you did sports broadcasting and you got in front of the mic for the first time. It's kind of intimidating, and I'm sure you had gotten nervous a few times, but it's just a testament to like following your passion and pursuing things that are special to you, because I had a similar thing happen with me, and on my journey to being part of the Mixtape Queens, I started in high school, really even before that, building websites, playing around with Photoshop, and researching my favorite artists, and just creating fan art and stuff like that. And now look at me, I do it for a living. I'm passionate about it. I love what I do. So it's cool to see that transformation from you in high school, even if it's just sports or getting into journalism. And now, even 5 years later from when you rebranded, it's interesting to see how far you've carried it as just even like a passion project. I'm sure you've interviewed like some pretty cool people. Do you have any favorites or episodes that you'd like to mention?
It's hard to pick a favorite, man, because I genuinely appreciate everybody who takes the time to come on the show, especially just being, like I said, a regular guy. And I don't say that like to like what's the word I'm looking for, to belittle myself or be demeaning to myself, because I can be a little self-deprecating. But I will tell you, actually, I'll give you a fun story. So the first conversation that I had that really got my gears turning about doing a podcast was actually with Coolio. Rest in peace. So, and I can't remember if I told you all this story, but before I started my podcast, like I said, I was doing music feature stories for Toledo Free Press. And I was having so much fun. Like because even when I was doing sports writing, that was probably the first nugget to doing the podcast. Was I always enjoyed the feature stories. So like I would go to games, the Toledo Rockets, that's my school where I went to, and I'd cover that for the student paper, right? And it's cool, you go to the game, you're sitting on press row, you're kind of getting pampered, like you're getting stats every quarter. There's food at halftime. The football games, man, like the press would be rushing to the food area to like get the desserts and stuff. And like, so you're kind of, so I actually, when I started doing sports writing for a local paper, when I got out of college, and I did a couple of game stories, I was like, I had to do the stats, I had to do the story, then I had to try to get interviews, and then I had to submit that all to the paper by like 10 p.m. If you got it there at like 10:25, I think they didn't even read it because they had to put it to press. But anyway, I'm going all over the place like I always do. So anyway, I was having a lot of fun doing music feature stories. But even in college, I liked doing the feature stories on players more than I liked doing the game stories, because you find out about the athlete and like where they came from, how did they grow up. And I've shared this story elsewhere, but and I don't know if she's hooping anymore, but her name's Nama Shafir, or at least it was when she was in college. Maybe she's married now, but she's from Israel, and she had a scholarship and played at the University of Toledo. Orthodox Jewish player, so and devout, so on like Saturdays, that's, I think they call it their Shabbat, like Christianity, I think is like Sundays. In the Jewish faith, I believe it's Saturday. So they would have to find hotels that were within walking distance to whoever they were playing. If it was a road game, she had to have kosher meals. She wore a shirt underneath her jersey. And she was dope, man. Like she was easily one of the best players on the floor anytime she stepped out there. They actually won the Women's National Invitational Tournament back in like 2011. But I remember getting to do a feature story on her, and it's like, wow, here's this kid who came from Hoshea, Israel. It's not even a town. I think it's like a village. There's, not that many people there. And she came from this place and, was one of the best players in her country before she came to the States, and then gets a chance to play Division I basketball. And it just kind of made me think about all the stuff that I would stress about, because I deal with anxiety and stuff. And I'm like, man, like I can't complain. Like here she is coming from another country, trying to get up on her English language and still be able to practice her faith, and her teammates rallied around her. So I loved doing stories like that. But when I started doing music features, that same love translated, and Coolio, and I probably need to stop prefacing. It's probably just me being too hard on myself. So I hope people don't think I'm name dropping, but y'all do music, interviews and stuff too. So I know you'll just probably think it's interesting, but that was the first one. I think it was 2011, I think, when I talked to him, and it was a phone interview. And we ended up talking for like an hour. He kind of took me through like his life, and Gangster's Paradise is his big hit. And he kind of talked about how, man, like I go other places in the world and I get all this love, but I feel like in the US, I don't get as much love. People just kind of think I'm a one-hit wonder with Gangster's Paradise and stuff. And we talked about a lot of stuff. And I remember just having this thought after it was over. I was like, if somebody would have, told me when I was 7 years old and I used to watch All That and Keenan and Kel, you know what I mean? And like Coolio and DeBrat were like involved with because I think Coolio did the theme song for Keenan and Kel. And I'm like, if somebody would tell me when I was 7 and I used to watch the Nickelodeon Saturday night block with my brother and my sister, that one day, Mike, you're going to talk on the phone with Coolio for over an hour and it's going to inspire you. So that was one of the first conversations that really got the ball rolling, where I was like, man, like it'd be cool if I could give people this full conversation. So that one never made it to like the pod because I didn't have the pod yet. But that was one of the first ones that got it rolling. So, I mean, I would say, like I said, it's hard to pick favorites, but that was kind of the inspiration. I genuinely appreciate all the guests that I have. I love heavy music, so the show definitely skews, I feel like, more to heavy music, but I've tried over the last few years to really be more, all encompassing, not just with the theme of the show, but a mix of genres. Because I, as much as I love heavy music, like in the morning, I love listening to 80s to get into my day because it just makes me feel good. I love 80s music. I feel like my soul essence is like the 80s. I feel like I'm 20 years behind. You know what I mean? But so I love 80s, but I've tried to get like country on there, hip hop, and then like I said, with the theme of the show, sometimes it's not even music. So hard to pick a favorite, but the Coolio feature story that I got to do, gosh, almost a decade and a half ago, I'm getting old, y'all. That was like the first one that planted the seed for me to just because you get to have interesting conversations that I just never thought I'd be able to get to have,
That's so cool because, like, literally, we were just testing our earphone to see if it worked before the podcast. And Amanda said, hit the play on the music and see if the headphones work. And I hit play and it was Coolio. And I was like, oh, Mike loves Coolio too. And I thought that was cool because it was like really random. Not a coincidence because we think things are a little more special than that. But yeah, I love that story because I remember we talked about this, but Coolio was my cream of the crop back then. Back in 1995, Amanda was just barely being born, and I was already about 6 or 7, and I was bumping that Gangster's Paradise, and the people in my neighborhood used to make fun of me because I was like, Coolio is way better than Tupac, and we used to have these beefs going back and forth. So, I have to give you props on that because that's a pretty cool way to, get introduced to being passionate about something, like talking to these amazing artists that have experienced, even Coolio with just one song. He's experienced so much as, one of the first in hip hop, and not just that, but everything he can shed light on. I bet that was a pretty cool interview.
Yeah, so I'm honestly kind of wondering, like, during that interview, did he say something specifically to you in one of those moments, if you can recall? Like, that was like the aha moment. Like, oh, I didn't even think of that.
It was, I think we were maybe like 15 minutes in. Well, he told me the story, which he's told, it wasn't like an exclusive for me, but he told the story about how he wrote Gangster's Paradise. And he went over to, I'm trying to remember whose house he was at, if it was like the producer's house, and he heard the hook, because I think it might be Luna's who's singing the chorus, been living most my life. I can't sing, so I'm not gonna, but I think it's Luna's. I think it's Luniz, maybe. I kind of almost want to look it up because I don't like being wrong on stuff. But yeah, he was like, man, he's like, I heard that hook. And so that was kind of like when he told me that story, because I had never heard the story how he wrote it. You know what I mean? And he was like, I just went over there and I remember I heard that hook, and he was like, man, I'm telling you, when I got my pen out and I opened up the notebook, he was like, it just poured out of me. He's like, it never left a page. He's like, I just wrote all of it, and it was just like, and it almost gives me chills now thinking about it, because it's like when you hear, like, especially when you love music as much as we do, and you hear somebody tell the story about how, like, literally how it came to them, it was really cool. And like I said, I've heard him tell that story at other interviews, like, since, because he was actually on Hot Ones, which I love, that YouTube show, where they eat the hot wings and ask celebrities questions, and then they just start falling apart because their mouths are on fire. But he was on there, and I think he told that story to Sean. But yeah, rest in peace to Coolio, man. And actually, my favorite Coolio song is Fantastic Voyage. In fact, I think I remember that music video. Because I think my babysitters, because we weren't supposed to like watch MTV when I was a little kid, but I think my babysitters, a couple of my babysitters had on MTV one time, and I kind of remember the music video, but that beat and that song is just, that's like a Friday vibe. You know what I mean? Like I was born on a Friday. That's my favorite day. So for people out there listening, if all you know is Gangster's Paradise, go bump Fantastic Voyage, because it is a ride. It is awesome. That's probably my favorite Coolio song.
Nice.
Oh, that's so cool though. Like I can't imagine, but at the same time I can because I don't like to limit myself. But from my perspective, just listening to that, like I can't imagine what that's like to talk to somebody that really just blew your mind as a kid and being like, whoa. And you know what? Let me stop because actually I can't imagine. We like got the chance to meet Maya face to face, and I'm like, I literally was watching you on my TV screen. And it's just like, you know,
Yeah, it's cool to see like what's possible
mm-hmm,
with these type of little breakthrough moments in our life.
mm-hmm,
And I'm curious, is there anybody else that you have in mind to be a guest on your podcast? Like if you really had to pick like maybe even three people, um, band or
mm-hmm.
otherwise to have on your podcast, who would you have in mind? Like who would be your biggest dream guest?
Man, that's a really good question. Y'all are bringing the heat today, man, asking the good questions. I love talking to you guys, man. You're good people, man. Wow. So it's kind of like that question where people are like, who would you have dinner with? You know what I mean? And there's so many people, right? Like that I would, he's passed, but it would be, my grandpa would be at that table for sure. But as far as podcast guests, man, off the dome, in terms of dream guests, I would say I would love to get Jonathan Davis from Korn, the lead singer of Korn, just because I feel like I've seen them live a couple of times. They're top 5 favorite band for me. They're one of the bands that really got me into heavier music, and their Untouchables record like got me through my freshman year of high school. And I don't want to make it sound like I had a horrible high school experience, but it wasn't awesome. I got a great education. I've met some of my greatest friends there. Shout out my buddy Matt. I have the honor of being the best man in his wedding in a couple of months. He's one of my best friends. I love him. I met him in high school. So high school wasn't all bad, man, but it was tough, because I didn't really have a lane and people want to put you in a box. You know what I mean? Like, I love basketball and, would wear basketball jerseys on jeans days and stuff, but I love heavy music too. And I was an altar boy. So people are like, what is this dude? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like they kind of want to put you in a lane, So anyway, so Jonathan Davis, I would love to get on just because for those awkward, like tween and teen years, man, and you just have that angst and that energy of like, like I kind of feel like an outcast and I feel like I'm misunderstood. And, my parents got divorced when I was in 5th grade and that was weird. You know what I mean? And like, and, heavy music was a positive release of negative emotion for me. And I feel like that band to me embodies like what heavy music is to me. It's like, it's a positive release of negative emotion. You headbang, you bob your head, and they were, and I don't know if they really like the term new metal, what came to be called as new metal, but they're really like the godfathers of it, where they took, 808s and hip hop influence and someone like the Cypress Hill, like, and they brought it into metal, and they spawned a whole new genre, man. So, he is somebody that I feel like in his story too, if you look him up, like he went through a lot, man. And he's just, the times I've seen him live, like he's never mailed it in. It is just like pure raw emotion. And he loves all kinds of music. Like he loves like 80s new wave. And I think J Devil is his like DJ. name that he goes under. He's a really interesting dude, man. But channeling that darkness in a healthy way, he's like the embodiment of it. So I would love to have him on to talk about just that experience of like, you know, him becoming that guy, you know, and maybe what were some of the struggles with fame, because I know he's been sober for a long time, but just like channeling negative energy into like positive energy. So he would be one. Another one would probably be, oh, I'm trying to give you guys faster answers, man, because I know I can talk a lot. But you said 3. Another one would be, oh man, I'd like to get more athletes on the show. So I would probably say Ben Wallace. Um, Ben Wallace would be interesting because he's one of my favorite athletes ever from the Detroit Pistons. There's actually a picture of him over my left shoulder. I don't know if you can see it, but he was undrafted and he became an NBA Hall of Famer and won multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards from Alabama. I think he was a really good football player too. And then I think he had an injury and focused more on basketball, but he wasn't like, you know, this like blue chip, you know, 5-star Division I prospect. And he just busted his butt, made it to the league and became just a king of rebounding and blocking shots. And they used to have signs at the Palace that said "Fear the Fro." You know what I mean? Like when I saw him, I wanted to see the Fro. I didn't want to see, even though he did the cornrows too. I was like, man, I want to see Big Ben with the Fro, because it was like, you just felt like that energy, man. Like he was, that team, the '04 Pistons, which actually I was just watching a game where they honored the team at the halftime ceremony when they played the Miami Heat, and he was there, and that team really embodied the city of Detroit. They called them the Going to Work Pistons, and Detroit's a really blue collar city. It's like 45 minutes from where I grew up. I grew up in Toledo, which is right on the border. So I would love to interview him just as more of a long form interview, because he doesn't say much. Like he's just one of those guys that just like, you know, he just did his job, you know. But it'd be really cool to be like, man, what was it like for you being a kid from Alabama, and you become like one of the best defensive players ever, and you made the NBA Hall of Fame, and you were undrafted, you know? Like that's just such a cool inspirational story. And then third, oh man, it's hard to pick just 3. I'm trying to think of people who have really like inspired me that would be really cool to talk to, man, because there's so many people. And I don't want dead air. I'm trying to think. Man, that's tough. I would probably say, man, this is tough. I'm trying to think of like really good humanitarian people that I like too, man. People who do a lot of good for other people, but like don't talk about it. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm sorry. I'm blanking on the third one. I think Ethan Hawke is really cool too. Oprah would be wild because it's Oprah, right? She's like the queen of interviewing, and it's like, how many lives has she touched? I don't know if she'd ever want to talk to me, but Oprah, if you hear this, man, you'd be cool to talk to, you know, because I think she's from Nashville originally too, ironically, and then I think Chicago was where she got like her start. But I think Oprah would be cool just because she's like talked to everybody. So it'd be kind of cool to talk to the person that's talked to everybody, and she's helped so many people too. But off the dome, that would be, I would say that was probably the 3. I know that was another long answer, but that's who it would be.
That's a big one, Oprah.
Yeah. Oh, Oprah.
You never know if she hears this.
Okay, yeah, because she could totally.
Yeah, and shout out to Korn, because I think it got me through high school too.
Yeah, not even me. And I went to high school in the late 2000s, of the 12, of the 14,
Yeah,
15.
and
You know.
I wasn't necessarily like a Korn kid, but I was like friends with the Korn kids. It was like they wear like baggy
Children of the Corn.
black pants and like black eyeliners and stuff.
Yeah. That was the real emo. Like, Everything else now is like an aesthetic, but those kids were emo. Like, if you look up in the dictionary what an emo kid looked like, well, that's what you're looking
90s.
at. Okay? Early 2000s, late 90s emo kid.
Yeah.
But
parachute pants.
Go ahead and cut on some Freak on a Leash and see how I start acting, okay?
Yep, that and Disturbed and Linkin Park. Those are big ones for us.
They were like the first, I think, band I ever heard do something so weird in a song, but it sounded so good. Like him, it's like he was beatboxing. It's hilarious. Yeah. It was like, it's so good that it's like, this is so creative. Who wrote this?
Yeah.
But you're right. I do think that it really was the catalyst for things like, even Linkin Park. Um, there was so many people and bands that were like, you know what, we can incorporate the two. And now like we can get on the internet and we can look it up and say rock bands that do hip hop and rock together, or they'll do metal and R&B. We heard a rock band that's doing metal and R&B and it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is like something's happening here. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different, and I like that.
And I like to see the way that it makes you light up to talk about these inspiring people. I think the world needs more of that. So I really would love to see you live up to that and pursue those dreams and continue your podcast, hopefully long into the future, where over time you're building and creating a space where these type of people can be welcome to be interviewed by you, because you're such a great interviewer.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped us to be interviewed by you, because I'm like, okay, he's got it right. He knows how to introduce, and these are all things that we've kind of learned after we started.
I literally wrote notes after our podcast episode with you. I was like, okay, so this is what we're gonna do, and we have to switch this because it's more professional, and this too, and like I feel like that happens often with us. Is we get really inspired by other creatives that we get to meet. And we'll see something that you guys are doing shout out to all the creators in the world. We are very inspired by you. Never been afraid. Don't be afraid to tell people that you admire what they've done, or like the work that they've done. Cause I guarantee you it will mean a lot.
Yes, and follow your dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow your dreams.
So, okay. So we have two more things before we leave. Kind of to put you on the spot, we have a little bowl of things that we're gonna shake it and pick something.
Are you hand picking?
We don't know what it is. Is it a word or it's like a math equation?
It's like a word or a math equation. Okay. Yeah, like shake it up a little bit.
Okay.
A little spice. There you go.
Okay. This is a big one. Let's do this one. Okay. So it's a fortune cookie. Yeah. No, it's okay. Freestyle word of the day. It is breakthrough.
Yeah.
So let's see. We can start it off. Breakthrough. I think that's pretty fitting. It kind of just flows because we're talking about these breakthrough moments that in the moment you might not think too much of it, like, oh, this is an amazing experience, but you don't realize that the trajectory of something so small, 10 years, 15 years later, you're starting to see the effects of that moment. Like, okay, now you interviewed Coolio, you interviewed these amazing sports stars, and now, you have bigger hopes. It's helped shape your belief system. So I think breakthrough for me is like those moments that we cherish, that give us the strength and ability to dream bigger.
Yeah.
What about you?
Okay, so for me, I'm gonna go ahead and hit on the next thing that we talked about after that. It's pretty much like the breakthrough that these artists that we admire so much, a lot of them still to this day, after being in the industry for so long, working as hard as they have worked, a lot of them are still shocked about the people that are being able to make a breakthrough because of their inspiration. Because I think that the biggest message you can get out of a breakthrough is that you sometimes the thing that you think is going to be something that nobody cares about turns out to be the biggest thing that people care about. Some of the biggest things that you can do in life are just break through. When you do that first, you're opening up so many other doors for other people to walk through, and they start to begin to do their own breakthrough, which in turn is opening more doors for other people to break through. It's like a fallout. If you see one domino fall, you'll see the rest of them fall along. They may not fall exactly the same, but they are going according to plan, you know? And one door leads to another door, that leads to another door, and it can be for anybody in any direction, any genre, or any creative lane. So it's pretty cool. That's what a breakthrough is to me. What about you?
I love y'all's answers, man, and thank you again, man, for all the kind words, man. Y'all are making me blush over here, and yeah, it's and I can't hide it when I'm blushing, but yeah, I would say for me, yeah, breakthrough would be when that unexpected moment comes, and whether it's like with a creative pursuit, maybe whether it's in love, romance. Like I think breakthrough is when something beautiful happens when you least expect it, and it might even be when you're at a low point. I've had moments on this journey where sometimes you look at the numbers and who's listening and whatever, and you start comparing it to other people, and then I'm like, why am I doing this, man? Because I always think of that quote, comparison is the thief of joy, and it's true. We're all on our own path, we're all connected, but we're all unique. And one of the things that I would hear sometimes along this journey would be like messages, not to me personally, but just in other interviews that I would listen to. Like I remember hearing Seth Rogen talking about it, like how, the one common denominator of if you don't achieve your dreams is just giving up. There's a lot of people who quit before that breakthrough happens. And when we see, musicians, or when we see athletes or movie stars and stuff, people see all of the stuff that comes with it, or they see, and we have these these celebratory events like the Grammys and the Oscars and stuff, but they don't see when they were maybe crashing on somebody's couch, or they were living out of their car, or they had $20 and they were trying to figure out how they were going to get from Monday to Friday and eat, or they had to make a decision of like, hey, how am I going to pay this bill, or do I finish this song, or do I do this, and so I think breakthrough for me is like, I do this because I love to do it, and I think that should be like your core. If you do something, it should be because you love it, and then you got to just put the work in, and be good to people, put out genuine kindness, not because you want anything in return, but just because it feels good to be good to people, and then just let the rest be the rest. And so I'm trying to stay more in that headspace of not going, oh man, when's it going to do this? Or when's this going to do that? When's Oprah going to call me? No, callback, #callback. But yeah, just like, I think breakthrough for me is just to piggyback off of what y'all said too, man. It's like, I just think it's like, you got to do something because you love to do it. And I really think that good things happen to good people in due time. There's a lot of negativity out there, but there's a lot of good people like you guys and what you're doing, like Anthony and what he's doing with Proven Knowledge. Shout out J Trey as well, who he started that with. Like, there's a lot of really good people out here, man. And you just got to keep doing what you do. Don't compare yourself to anybody. Learn from people who are doing it well, right? Like if you're first picking up a basketball and you're 12 years old today, right? Who are you going to be watching? You're probably going to be watching LeBron James, Luka Doncic, you know what I mean? You're going to be watching like Kevin Durant, like the guys who are like killing it. right? Just like when I was a kid, we were all counting down in the driveway. We had our tongues out like, like Michael Jordan, you know what I mean? Cause that's who was doing it, right? Follow the, try to emulate or look at what people are doing that are working and how you can maybe incorporate that into what you're doing. But be authentic and be yourself and don't be worried about being too buttoned up. I think too, with whatever it is that you do, because at the end of the day, it's going to be your style and your voice that sets you apart. You know what I mean? And just on like the basketball thing, because I made a basketball reference, like Allen Iverson, he changed the game. You know what I mean? Like MJ's, and LeBron are probably the two best ever in my opinion, but in terms of style and swag and all that stuff, like now when you watch NBA games, like it's like, what are the arena fits and what are the guys like? Most of the guys in the league have tats now and are very expressive, and pretty much all that came from Allen Iverson, man. Like, cause he was unique. He was just, and he had a unique style and the way he played the game. And he was one of the most ferocious players out there. And he was 6 foot and maybe $165. But he was one of the greatest athletes and greatest scorers, and played with a ton of passion. And so a long way of saying that I feel like, be yourself, be good to people, and enjoy the journey. You know what I mean? And that breakthrough will happen 100%. But don't quit. If you love it and it means something to you, you just got to keep doing it, man. You know what I mean? So that's the headspace I've tried to be in 2024, is not worrying about when's this going to happen or that's going to happen. It's just like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, man. And that breakthrough will come,
Yes.
Yeah. I love that.
It's powerful.
I really do. Because when you really tap into yourself, like more than anything else, you'll figure out what it is you need to do to have that breakthrough, And you may not like the answer sometimes, but guess what? Sometimes you go through that breakthrough and you're like, thank God for that answer. Or, thank the universe or thank me or whatever you believe in.
Right. Or in some cases,
grateful.
Break down to break through, which we've all done that,
That's really what it is that when most people, when they hit rock bottom, they bounce back up so much quicker than you can ever even express. You hear a lot of times people say, oh, I hit rock bottom and nobody's doing something for me or whatever. Something's not going their way. But truth is, it's about your mindset when you hit rock bottom. You either decide to lay there and let yourself die. And by yourself die, I mean your creative spark or the thing that brings you joy. You either let that die or you say, okay, I'm going to water it again. I'm going to try one more time. And sometimes that try one more time is like it. That's it. That's it. It's like if you have the fire in your hand, you have the wood right there for you to burn to make a fire for yourself. And you say, well, I don't know how to put it on the fire, so I'm not even going to try. And then it goes out. So you have no flame. But if you take a chance and you say, you know what, I don't know how to light this, but I'm going to try. And you just toss it in there, sometimes a roaring flame. Sometimes you get that explosion, and that's really it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for coming on here, joining us, and letting us interview you this time and giving us that inspiration. We need it. That's why we do what we do, and we love what we do, because we're out here building a community of people that are following their dreams. So we want to inspire everybody that's listening to follow their dreams and not give up on what's important to you, what you're passionate about, and what makes you smile and makes you feel joy.
Yeah.
And so if anybody wants to be on the March 4th podcast, or you'd like to listen to the March 4th podcast,
and you should
check the description and all of the links below and get in touch with Mike Bauman and show him some love. Let him know the Mixtape Queen sent you.
He'll show the love back, seriously.
Yes.
One of the best people we've ever gotten the pleasure of speaking with and getting to know. Just know that we will always give you 100% of the information about everybody that we meet. We absolutely love you, King, just for like your patience, your kindness that you've shown us in the time that we've known you. We genuinely appreciate it. You're like our forever brother. You can't get rid of us ever. Um, you know, you ever seen a leech? No, I'm just kidding.
Coming
No,
to Nashville.
we're stuck. Coming to Nashville, run it up. Ooh,
Yes.
on the way. But yeah, we're super excited for your future. Super excited to see what you do this year. I know you are going to continue to grow and expand, and we are just like hoping for the best for you all the way through and through.
Always.
And you always got our support.
Yes.
Well, Amanda, Elise, like I love you guys, man. You're good people for real, man. Like it's sometimes you do this stuff and like, you wonder where it's going and who you're connecting with and genuinely getting to meet people like you who inspire me just with the way you guys carry yourselves and how positive you are and I know the last few months have been tough, outside of the work that you guys are doing and I'm just so glad that you guys have each other and that you lead with love and that you're trying to help other people and that's really what it's all about, man. It's like finding whatever it is that you enjoy and then planting those seeds and watching them grow, man. So I feel really fortunate to have been able to connect with y'all digitally. And I know this won't be the last time. You guys are welcome on my show anytime. And yeah, anytime you come through Nashville, let me know because I would love to meet you guys in person. And it would be cool to just meet you guys in person, man. And yeah, I'm a big fan of what y'all are doing. So I appreciate you guys having my goofy self on here with your listeners. And I'm always conscious, like I said, I'm probably me being too hard on myself. I'm always conscious of like how long-winded I can be sometimes. But yeah, I'm really glad we connected, man. And I think you guys are just getting started on your journey too. And don't be too hard on yourselves. Like you guys said, you're like, man, we haven't been doing our show that long, but sometimes the oops can be good, like when with mistakes or, and over time, you get better, right? Like, with whatever it is, whether it's music or podcasting, if I go back and listen to shows from a while ago compared to how they sound now, I know they sound different in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
But don't be worried about being too perfect, man. Like I actually think it's cool that you guys did the shake up thing with the questions just now, like cool things like that to put in the show. Like just be authentic and be yourselves. Cause I think at the end of the day, man, not that you asked for my advice, but like that's what people are really going to connect with, man. They're going to connect with Amanda and Elise and the Mixtape Queens, and so yeah, I think you guys are doing a great job, and I'm just happy that I've been doing it long enough now and making enough noise that the ripple effects are bringing positive back, because I do believe what you give off is what you get back, man. So you guys are my sisters for life too, and I mean that. I really appreciate what you're doing, and don't quit. Just like I was saying, don't quit. Keep going. If you need to holler at me, if you get a little down or whatever, not that, I mean, I don't have a million downloads or anything like that, man, but I don't have that Spotify exclusivity money. But if they're listening, hey, Spotify, what's up? But yeah, just hit me up, man, because I will make sure that I motivate you guys, man, because I don't want you to stop. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. We won't stop. I can't.
We can't do it. That's encoded in the DNA to keep going and to just keep persevering and pushing forward. We're March 4th. That's what we're doing. We're marching.
Yes. Yes.
So, yes. Yeah. But yes, okay, so, is that Oh, we had that.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure. I'm like, did we leave something out? No. Okay, I'm gonna clip that. Whatever. Okay, so uh, thank you, of course, for being on our podcast and just sharing your energy with us once again and with our listeners. Like, we genuinely appreciate you. Also, everybody that's listening, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys are awesome. Every single one of you that listens to us. Thank you to the top 100 who have listened to us continuously. You listen to every single one of our episodes. We genuinely appreciate you. If you haven't already, because sometimes I know it's hard to forget, please hit that follow button and that subscribe button. We appreciate you so much, and we're sending everybody love. Thank you so much, King. We appreciate you, and we hope you have a beautiful and blessed rest of your day.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Thank you guys so much, man. I love you guys, man. Keep doing your thing for real.